and the definitions of the MPAs when they're finally developed. Okay, just in conclusion, are we making progress towards ecosystem-based fisheries management? Probably one of the first key steps is the ability to control capacity and fishing mortality, and I think we're doing a reasonable job of that. The introduction of the QMS made a good start, and there's been subsequent restructurings over time, and the system with that sort of strong economic incentive shows that it can be responsive to quite large reductions in quota when they have to occur. There has been significant development of policy frameworks and approaches that will contribute to ecosystem management, and that includes the biodiversity and SME strategies and the variety of protected areas and protected species management initiatives that I've just described. So all seem to be moving in the right direction. The MSC certification process also seems to be helping that movement. But there are a few key challenges that remain. One of those is linking the strategies and measures being proposed together. At the moment it's quite piecemeal, and getting a much more coordinated approach would be very beneficial. Plugging information gaps is quite an important one as well. Lack of information fuels controversy in some of the groups that are being formed to consider some of these measures. And so there's a need for much better commercial information, particularly on the inshore and the amount of recreational and customary catch, but also some of the scientific information that can inform ecosystem-based fisheries management. Thank you.
So, are there any questions for Rosie? Please, Dave.
Your comments about MSC effect, their principle 2 addresses whether or not the target species in question has an ecosystem impact or community impact, but that's still in the context of the particular species under consideration. How is that blended together to achieve a sense of ecosystem-based management?
I think let's get back to the issue that was being raised before about the idea of managing the species and then incrementally adding on steps versus looking at the ecosystem approach from the start, which might lead you in a completely different direction with focus on different things. I mean, what seems to be happening is that there are more steps being taken to understand the fisheries interaction with the ecosystem and try and lessen the impacts as more understanding is reached. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Yes.
I have a question, actually. One of the things I was struck by in your presentation is that you're approaching this in many directions. You have the sort of policy frameworks, you have marine protected areas, you have single species management, bycatch reduction, science, and you presented in a very interesting way how these are working, and I appreciate the frank presentation. Are there other things on the horizon that New Zealand is considering? And I'm also I'm thinking about larger oceanographic changes, acidification, climate change perhaps, affecting these systems. I'm just curious if there are other tools and other things that are in consideration by New Zealand to complement this already rather ambitious suite of initiatives.
Yes, there's certainly attention being paid to climate variability, climate change and acidification, those kind of things. But one of our biggest drawbacks is that we have a very small budget for this kind of research. The aquatic environment research budget is about $1.5 million a year, and biodiversity budget's in the same order. So we rely very heavily on a lot of information collected through the stock assessment research, which in itself is about $12 million a year. But also other research programs that are carried out by organisations such as the one I work for, which are funded through a totally different stream. And there certainly could be benefits, and part of the problem with that is that because it's not funded as one unit, we tend to get the oceanography and some of the ecosystem components being dealt with through the other funding stream, but the link to fisheries isn't always there. And so I think there could be a much more cohesive approach to actually building all those things in together and taking better account of some of those things in the fisheries side.
Well, so we have time now for a break, and I think it's 15 minutes. Is that the break?
We have half an hour, so
half an hour.
we'll convene at 3:30.